Hello, everybody. I'm Jocelyn Jovan, and this is the True Talk Podcast. I'm back, literally back like I never left, because the last time I recorded an episode was sometime last year, like maybe September. I really don't even remember. And I'm just coming back on here because I have to be true to myself. I love talking shit. I'm a journalist. I'm a blogger. I write about a plethora of different news types a day. I write 50 articles a week. So all that's on my mind is news and information and TV and celebrities. And I would be doing a disservice to myself to not be able to kind of share my take on these stories rather than just kind of reporting and disseminating what's happening. So in the past, my episodes kind of varied. I would talk about life things, pop culture, celebrity news, real hard-hitting news. But now I just kind of want to like stick to just one topic, one thing, really just kind of stay true to myself per episode. One, it'll make it shorter. It'll help people kind of just fine tune in on whatever topic I'm talking about. Like today, I'm going to talk about RHONY. So if you don't watch RHONY, you don't need to watch this. Unless you're also kind of interested into conversations around racism, racial discrimination, all of that. Because if you're watching this season of RHONY, that's kind of the basis of it. So like I was saying, this episode is literally just strictly about RHONY. Maybe in the future, I'll talk about other things, but I just want to kind of only talk about what's on my mind right now. So to my RHONY community, I will be honest. This is my first like real season watching live, because I've never really checked for RHONY because it didn't really matter to me, didn't really speak to me. With them bringing on their first Black housewife, I'm like, hey, I'm going to check it out. And even with me deciding like, okay, I'm going to check it out. Actually, last year during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm going to go watch all the Housewives. I'm going to try to go back and watch all the Housewives because I had only been watching the Black ones. I'm just being honest. Probably a lot of Black women, we and I'm sure a lot of white women don't watch the Black ones, but they do, because I'm a journalist, so I'm kind of able to keep tabs on like where the conversations are flowing. But as a Black woman, it was easy to not feel represented by most of the Housewives franchises outside of Atlanta and now Potomac, not counting Salt Lake City, because that's in its first season. And they came in hot, diverse, with drama. It's just lit. I love Salt Lake City. As for RHONY, I did start season 1. It was so hard to get through season 1. Because again, it's like, it doesn't resonate with me. It's super lily white. It's, this was like from 10 plus years ago. So the times are different. The conversations are different and nothing. I was completely turned off, but I'm still just trying to get through it because at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I'm watching this current season and following it now. So at least let me kind of get introduced to these people, Ramona, Luann, or whatever, Sonia. Okay. So Eboni is the first Black housewife. Not only is she the first Black housewife on RHONY, but she has a background. Like she's not just any Black woman. Like they didn't just go and hire a Black woman with like reality TV experience, or she's just been kind of out there trying to get her name out there. They hired someone who is a licensed attorney. She is a proud HBCU grad. She went to Howard. She is a proud AKA. She is a soror, but she, I'm an AKA too, but she is that AKA. Like you can see it if you watch the show. Like she is, I'm AKA. Here's my AKA sweater. It's my AKA picture. Like she's like one of those. So I, just from being an AKA and seeing like, okay, she is a go hard, like that, she's super Black power, Black history, Black, all of that. So that's who they decided to make the first Black housewife. Not only that, she worked previously with Fox News and on like as a news analyst, and a Black woman who believed in like Black rights, being on Fox News. She is an expert moderator in a number of topics related to women's rights, diversity and inclusion, and like civil rights, social justice. So this is the woman that they bring on to RHONY to be the first Black housewife with Ramona Singer, like Luann de Lesseps. It's just, you know, I feel like the producers knew what they were doing. They knew the dynamic that was going to be created when they brought this type of woman onto the show. So now she's on the show. Let's also keep in mind that this season that we are watching is, you know, I want to have like a picture of her or something. But this season that we are watching of RHONY is filmed during last year, 2020, during heightened, not only an international health pandemic, but heightened racial tension. Not even just in the country, worldwide. You saw the Black Lives Matter movement spread across the sea. They was knocking down Confederate flags in London, okay? Like everybody was on that, you know, like that's where the conversation was. Like I was having my white friends reach out to me and ask me things they've never asked me before. Like, how can I be an ally? How, like, tell me about your experience growing up as a Black person. Like this never had happened before. In addition, we were now coming on to an election to possibly get Trump out of office, someone that was highly controversial, you know, for those, for even if you supported him or not, for those that supported him, it was constant backlash of why are you supporting this man? And for those of us who didn't support him, it's just like, why is he still in office? So now you got Eboni K. Williams in New York City during all of this with damn Ramona Singer, Luann de Lesseps. So if you're following the season, at this point, if you're listening to my conversation, you are following this season, okay, then you can see that there have been instances where the conversations around race and racism comes up, okay? The first time, I mean, it was like only just Eboni checking her, because at the end of the day, this is Housewives, when they check each other all day. So Eboni checked Ramona when Ramona referred to one of her assistants as the help. Then things got even more heated when Luann and Eboni got into it over a topic of education, when you know, it happened after Leah McSweeney cursed everyone out, called them a bunch of hoes, literal hoes, and stormed off. No one said anything. And then like kind of Eboni was like, I guess, defending her. And then the comment of, it's really about education. Like it comes down to education. And that's what Luann said. And so Eboni responded and said, well, I mean, technically, if we're talking about education, I'm the most educated person here, which technically she is correct. She has like 4 degrees. Shout out to Wendy Osefo, a fellow soror on RHOPE, Real Housewives of Potomac, who you know she's gonna remind you she got them 4 degrees. So from there, the conversation got heated, and Luann ends up calling Eboni angry, and Ramona agrees and says, "Yeah, you are acting angry. This is Eboni we're talking about." So they have a really much needed conversation around why a white person should be more mindful before calling a Black person angry, like just the connotation and the stereotypes surrounding the angry Black woman, the angry Black person, the angry Black man. And Eboni is more than qualified to be that person to educate them on that, because this is what she does for a living, like literally outside of Housewives, outside of her work, even as a journalist. Like that's what Eboni does. Like that's what she studied. This is what Eboni does. Okay, it's her life's work. So Luann is very open and receptive to that. They make up, kumbaya. She apologizes, boom, pow, 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 pow. So now what we're getting into is, I guess, like the tension is settling, but at the same time, it's an election and Eboni is Eboni. And she kind of continues to bring up race in different ways and our politics. And it just makes her other cast members feel uncomfortable. And I get it. Like I'm watching it, I totally get it, you know? But at the same time, considering all of who Eboni is, the climate, what she's there to represent, you know, it's like, I also get where she's coming from. So now I'm tackling this because we're seeing a number of mixed reactions, and I'm actually wanting to defend Eboni in a way and just open the viewers' minds. If you are a fan of RHONY and this season you're just disappointed because it's not giving you any of that drama, the typical drama, BS banter, but it's kind of giving more hard-hitting topics and you don't like it. So let me share my screen for a second because I want to show you like what exactly I'm talking about. So I actually kind of got into this debate. And so this is where I'm coming from today. So Roa Superfan on Twitter tweeted that finally watched the RHONY episode from a couple of weeks ago. At some point, Eboni is going to have to stop making everything a teachable moment. It's becoming unbearable now. And, you know, like she is a Black woman who said this. So she said also this is not a pass to spew anti-Black comments because she was like, I ain't with it. Okay. So now if you actually like look at a lot of the responses, a lot of people are agreeing with her. You know, some people say get ready for more tonight because if you watched the most recent episode with the Harlem Nights party and Eboni was wilding. I will admit. Let me stop sharing that. So Eboni, they had the party. And I even thought it was going to be like, of course, I'm thinking there's going to be teachable moments there. It's a damn Harlem Renaissance party or Harlem Nights party, you know, so, you know, and it's Eboni throwing it. So I'm feeling like she's going to incorporate or, you know, maybe the feng shui or the vibe of it. I didn't think she was going to have them sitting at a damn table. And she's like, okay, Ramona, you're Duke Ellington. And Luann, you're like, what? Like, you're Zora Neale Hurston. It's like, okay, like, girl, now you're doing a lot. Like, we did not sign up for this. We are not in college. We didn't sign up for a Black History Harlem Renaissance class. So you're doing a lot. But I still was understanding where she was coming from. So actually that tweet that I just showed you, I responded and said, you know, as the first, you know, she's the first Black housewife, you got to kind of understand the climate and understand the editing. Hello, like if you watch reality television and then you follow the reality stars, every season there always is someone or something can happen where one of the stars will say, it's the editing. Oh, it was edited to look like that. It was edited to look like that. Yeah, it is, because we need to make a show. We need our viewers to be entertained. And I have been asking everyone on Twitter, and no one can still tell me, outside of Eboni and her conversations around racism, what is this season of RHONY about? What? Whose storyline? What? Who really has something to say? No one. No one. So even as a blogger and someone who follows this, I wouldn't really be surprised if there was some kind of backhand encouragement to have these conversations so we can kind of make a show, especially this last scene we saw on the election night. And they had Eboni go to Ramona's house. It was just the two of them. And Eboni kind of just wants to talk about how historical and groundbreaking it is that we have the first woman in the White House, and then she's Black. Ramona doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. Now, it was hilarious. It was hilarious to me because it was like clear as day. Like, girl, Ramona, if you don't want to talk about it, we know who you voted for, boo-boo. And don't be ashamed. Like, just, it is what it is. But again, you got to think about, come on, why the hell would Eboni go to Ramona's house on election night to talk about the election? Like, in real life, that wouldn't happen. So that was suggested. This is a scene that was suggested. How do we not know what the setup originally was for that party? Or if she was suggested to put on these different roles? Regardless, it's being edited that this is the focal point for Eboni. And this is the focal point for this show, because what else is there? What is Leah giving us? Like, she, you know, she's mourning the loss of her grandmother. Luann, I did like that last scene with her and her daughter, where she apologized to her daughter for being like, you know, kind of like a little hot mess, raising her growing up or whatever. And that's cool. That's a cool mommy-daughter moment. And I'm sure a lot of longtime fans needed to see that because, you know, you've kind of seen Luann go off the hinges over the years. So seeing her kind of get herself back together, she needed that redemption scene. I don't know what Ramona, her thing is. And remember, this is like my first real season watching. So it's like, I'm just getting introduced to these people. So it's like, I don't really know like with Ramona, I know she's controversial. So all I can see is that they like to put Ramona in these instances, knowing to make her uncomfortable to see how she'll react. And from most of what I see with Ramona's actions is she walks away. She doesn't, as much as outspoken as she is, she's not confrontational where she wants us to sit there and argue with somebody. Like, I'm leaving. Can I just step away for a second? Okay, no, I'm walking away. That's Ramona. So I don't really see what she's giving me. Sonia, I love her. Like she's like a breath of fresh air to this dynamic that's, this kind of intense dynamic that they have on the season. But I don't really know what her storyline is. I don't really know what she's bringing. So outside of Eboni being the first Black housewife, and now they brought on Bershawn and they're able to kind of have these conversations around race, there isn't much to this show. Like, I'm saying this as a new viewer, like there is nothing else. So don't sit here and bash Eboni for being unbearable and talking about race too much when, one, it could be edited this way because there ain't shit else to watch on this show. These women are giving us nothing. And when I was struggling to get through season 1 and now I'm struggling to get through season 2, it's because they're giving me nothing. Okay. And yes, I have been only watching the Black Housewives shows in the past, but they giving it to you. And this is why more people tune into them. I am a Redditor. I be on Reddit all day because I look for content to turn it into articles. And everybody watches Atlanta. Everybody watches Potomac, not just Black women. Everybody is engaged. Why? Because the storylines are strong. These are women giving you their full selves. Okay, they're putting it out there on Front Street. The shade is real, unfiltered, undoctored. Okay, so you get a lot more meat and potatoes with those shows. I'm just being honest, outside of New Jersey, because I fucks with Jersey. Real Housewives of New Jersey is like top notch. And it, to me, the reason they're top notch is one, of course, of their culture. If you watch the old seasons, like it was like mostly Italian. So they're just like real passionate and emotional. And Teresa put all her business out there. And you really don't see that on Beverly Hills, Orange County, really, New York. You know, some stuff gets put out there like, oh, this person is cheating or divorced or whatever, but you're talking about a woman, you know, going to prison over her husband's financial things. But then you compare that with like Potomac, where it's like Ashley's husband keeps slinging that D all around town. And then in Atlanta, where Nene, we watched her get divorced and remarried to her husband. Portia got dumped by her first husband, the baby daddy, it's real drama. And so it's real drama. It's real engaging that you could kind of take it in like, oh, this is good. You know, Phaedra with Apollo back in the day, Kenya coming on. It's good drama. So I'm looking at New York. I'm not getting that. And what I've also done with all of the housewives, I've gone on YouTube and looked up the top fights, like the big standout moments. That's what got me into Jersey. Because when I watched their fights, I was like, ooh, I got to go watch this show. This show looks crazy. But New York, what I've seen, that one of the top like dramatic moments, there was like some argument at a party and a lady had a prosthetic leg and she threw it off. Yeah. So again, back to this season, they're giving us nothing. Eboni is at least giving us something on top of her being true to herself, because this is what she does for a living. So I want to share this thread I found on Reddit, and I did write an article around it because this person worded it so well. And I just want to kind of read this. And I don't know what this person, you know, what that's what I love about Reddit. You don't know what anybody is. You know, they have to personally say like, I'm white or I'm Black. This person's view is just very unbiased. Like, it's just very, just like, as a viewer, you could tell they're a fan of the show and they're watching. So it says, Eboni's preaching is different. Obviously, there's a lot of talk and complaints about the heavy focus on race in Real Housewives lately. I think most of us understand why it's important, but also miss the petty BS that drew us in the first place. But during the last episode of RHONY, I realized something about Eboni. All the women are saying they just want to connect with Eboni on a personal level and not feel like she's always preaching, educating. I think that Eboni also wants to connect with these women on a personal level, but she feels like she can't unless they understand how she sees the world and who she is in it, which I completely get. When meeting new people and trying to form meaningful relationships, we all feel like we are certain parts of ourselves that the other people must know about, us to make a genuine connection. That often has to do with core values. And with Eboni, her core values are very intertwined with race and social justice. Not just because she's a Black woman, but because she's dedicated so much of her life to Black history, Black excellence, and racial and social justice. While I'm sure these things are important to many people, in Eboni's words, she eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff, and it's her life's work. So for Eboni, this isn't just about educating the white women or trying to get them to defer to her or her views. She really wants to connect with them and feels she can't do that genuinely and authentically if they can't understand how she sees the world and how she shows up in it. So this one was just so kudos, shout out to this person here. You know, everybody has really weird names on Reddit, so you can't really tell. But shout out to them because I just thought that this was very well worded. Of course, this is what I was saying on Twitter, but you can't put all this on Twitter. But this is exactly it. And so many people agreed and the conversation shifted. So whereas you had that Roa superfan on Twitter who kind of took that angle and everyone agreed, like, yeah, you know, or even if you don't really agree, seeing that tweet, it'll kind of make you be like, yeah, you know, Eboni is doing too much. But seeing this angle will make you be like, you know what, Eboni is kind of doing a lot at times, but I understand where she's coming from. And now if you just kind of add my little spin to it, what is this season of RHONY about aside from Eboni? You ladies are giving us nothing. Ramona, if you're tired of Eboni preaching and teaching, give us something, boo. Because if you look at the other housewives, the OGs are getting snipped off. So you better bring something to the table or you're going to get that little pink slip and you can and will be replaced, as we've seen on other franchises. So I'm going to wrap this up because I think I've made my point. Thanks to that Redditor there and even Roa Superfan on Twitter. Lay off Eboni, especially if you've never even really thought of the things that she's bringing to the conversation on RHONY. If this is the first time you're kind of being introduced to having to think that way, i.e. like Ramona, you know, or Luann in ways, then, you know, in ways you've been a part of the problem for far too long. So be a part of the solution. Like I said, I had a friend call me last summer and she just wanted to ask about my experience. And I swear, I just felt such a connection to her. That connection that they're saying Eboni wants to feel with these women on the show. It doesn't, the connection doesn't come from me calling out your microaggression and you apologizing and then we hugging, you know. The connection comes from us being able to have this conversation, even if it's like, oh, Eboni, I don't really want to talk about politics right now, but like, what do you mean? Actually, you know what? Yes, it's great that we have come up, at least a woman in office. I didn't vote for her, but I do at least respect that we have a woman in office. That can create a much more genuine, authentic conversation and an authentic relationship between them as co-stars. I don't know. The way I feel, I wouldn't be surprised if this was Eboni's first and last season, just because it's like outside of Leah and Sonia, I don't really know how they're going to continue to try to involve her in these circles. And she's just so different. I do like Bershawn. She's super dope. I like the dynamic she brings. It was just really interesting that scene between her and Eboni when Bershawn kind of brushed it off like, oh, come on, it's not like that anymore. Black people are doing well. Because it's like, girl, don't be that Black person now. Because it's like, you know, we still got ways to go. It is not kumbaya time. Okay, it is not. They are locking Black people up for no damn reason, keeping them incarcerated for far too long, when the people that are really out here taking money out of our pockets are sitting in offices in Wall Street. Okay, so it's like, and it's hard for a Black person to get in that office in Wall Street. So there's a ton of issues that I think in the last year, because what happened with George Floyd, it wasn't about George Floyd. Remember, it wasn't about just police brutality. It was about the Black struggle and the fact that we've been here, we were brought here. So we've been here for hundreds of years. And it's like, why are we still having to deal with this? Like, you know, it shouldn't be like this. And as long as we continue to kind of just do passive progress, we're not really going anywhere. And you can't fault the Black people, because we do live in a democracy with freedom of speech. You can't fault the Black people like the Ebonis who aren't afraid to say that, because it is an uncomfortable thing to say, but it's the facts. You cannot be upset over the facts. So with that being said, this season it's my first. If they don't bring back a Black woman next season, I'm checking out, because it hasn't really impressed me. I have at least appreciated the conversations they've had this season around race. Like I said, being mindful of the climate last year, but they are giving me nothing. And we can get these same conversations around race on Potomac and Atlanta. So yeah, that's it for me. Follow me at Jocelyn Diva on Instagram and TikTok, and at Jocelyn Diva 08 on Twitter. And yeah, just be open-minded. Love. Bye.